This is Richard J. Allen's Petty and Ill-Informed Podcast, recorded live weekly on YouTube.
No, it got all quiet again.
Well, I look at it like this, Richard. That's the only time a little quiet and my microphone will come into play in this podcast.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, it's very true. So, welcome to this week's edition of the Petty and Ill-Informed Podcast, where we give our petty and ill-informed opinion on various subjects. Joining me, as always, is Kevin from Ireland and the Queen of Bitchville from Tennessee, Niki.
Hello. That didn't sound personal at all.
And if I sound angry and bitter, that's because I am.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have a good week?
I had an awesome week.
So many things that I thought could have been better this week. But anyway, that's all right. I can't remember any of them, so that's okay. I mean, I had so many petty fucking ideas for this. Oh, sorry.
Great. Down at the first hurdle.
Yes, I know. I had so many petty
1 minute, 39 seconds, a new record.
So many petty ideas for this program this week that I can't remember what any of them are. So that's actually a good thing. I'm sure they'll come up.
And you, vile trollop, are you having a good day?
I'm having a good day. My week was crappy, and then it was awesome. I'm on a TikTok now.
Yeah, I've seen it. You were
Pretty
very
gross.
sweaty.
Very gross. But yeah, I'm doing good. I can see out of one eye. I have 20/30 in one eye and 2400 in the other. It's interesting.
So, we were going to ask the chat something, but I've completely forgotten. We were having an argument about something, and we needed their opinion. Damn it. It was Thursday.
I'm trying to remember.
Anyway. You might have noticed I'm being a little hostile towards Niki tonight. That's because something incredibly embarrassing happened to her, and I've been very... What?
I said, go ahead and tell everybody.
I'm not going to tell anybody what happened, but something incredibly embarrassing happened to her tonight. And I was very supportive and sweet, and she was a colossal bitch to me. So
it's true.
That's why I'm being a lot hostile towards her, because I don't like her.
Yes,
we're fighting.
We're fighting. Your feelings were not reciprocated adequately to your level of satisfaction. So therefore, you have to be an asshole to her. You like
yes,
that? You like
that's exactly.
On you?
Yeah, he was feeling bad for himself, and I was like, yes, you're the person that we need to feel bad for right now.
Yes, my benevolence was not reciprocated.
It's a big deal when I'm that word. Yes. It's a big deal when I'm that word.
I imagine it. I imagine it is, Richard.
Yeah. You all suck. Kevin's against me. Gabby's against me. Angie's against me. I have the worst fans and the worst
co-host. I love how pretty much everybody's like, well, were you being a dick?
No, I'm not holding it against him because he's a dick. I'm accepting the fact that he is a dick.
No, he was being very, very sweet, and I'm just in the mood. And so I've been very mean to him today.
Yes. Well, just so you know, I did come into the discussion pre-show in the middle of a very heated argument. And at that point in time, I still have no clue about what's actually happening.
What was the heated argument about?
Well, no, it was like I came in and then you're like, well, let's ask Kevin what he thinks or whatever, and then I had cut out at that point in time because I always think that the worst thing you can possibly do is ask Kevin his opinion on on literally anything,
Uh,
especially since I decided that I was going to try to stick to the rule of thirds this week and only speak roughly about a third of the time.
Come on, Kevin. Baby steps. Why don't you aim for 3/4 of the time?
Well, I mean, it is a help that I don't know what the topic is of the week. And apparently, even though you said, well, when Nikki comes back, we're going to talk about this subject, and Nikki's back, we're not talking about that subject
That's
either.
because something incredible happened and I need to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
It hooked me. It hooked me, Kevin. It hooked me bad. But
Yeah.
anyway, I know I've been a bit of a dick to Nikki so far. I'm sorry. I ask you all in the chat to tell her that things are never as bad as we make them in our minds. If you could all do that, that would be great.
uh,
I'm just saying, for
I'm
my
over it.
sake,
I'm over it. It's fine.
give Nikki some love. Anyway, so before we get onto the old topic, anything you guys want to talk about?
Like
Well,
right now.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I came into the show saying that I've been watching The Crown this week again on my royal fiction fantasy of different things that happen. Last week it was Mary Queen of Scots. This week's it's The Crown. Although I did also watch a program called The Windsors. I don't know if you ever saw that, Richard.
It's like the best show I've ever seen Harry Enfield in.
Yeah, and
I mean, I can't tell you how much I love that and how much I bet their interpretation of the Windsors is spot on.
right, more accurate than accurate, I would think.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And the Crown was one of those things. And I look at it from the standpoint of, having an American wife, and looking at it and saying, what do you think about that and everything? And I realizing that, as when I grew up, a lot of the royal family was still, to a lot of people, the archetypal way of Britishness and sort of that suffering in silence sort of question. That was, I mean, and although in a world where we say that seems so stuffed down, that's what we thought was awesome back then. We knew they were suffering and we loved them for it because they just didn't complain about it.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, it is a hilarious show if you haven't seen it. Did you see the one where Will and Kate renew their vows and she was there in a full gypsy dress?
Well, yeah, the whole gypsy thing I didn't quite get, but I mean, to be honest with you, that Peppa for some reason does it for me, and in the winters, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, she's supposed to. Well, she's low born, isn't she, to be married to the royal family?
Yes,
That's the joke there.
Right. Well, yeah, the fact that she was always supposed to be living on a traveler's site somewhere is interesting and funny.
Mm-hmm. Psych Toad suggests we talk about Bigfoot. There's nothing to talk about that we haven't mentioned a million times, Toad. I mean, the reason we changed the format of the show was because every episode of this show was pretty much the same. I mean, we had like 3 or 4 Bigfoot videos, and they were pretty much the same Bigfoot videos. And once that, what's his face? The guy with the annoying voice came into the picture, I was done.
You're dissing Dr. Dan or Dr.
Yeah, there you go. Daily Dan vlog.
Daily Dan. I don't know. I've been watching 603 Bigfoot. I don't know. He's got a degree. 603 Bigfoot, everyone.
Let me. Can you just? Well, now we're gonna do that. Care Bear, thank you. I love you for that. And I messaged you my story too on Facebook. It's so funny because when that popped up, I had just told her what happened. Uh,
All right, never mind. Never mind that the fact that this show is not about some random thing that we're not going to know about. No,
listen, you know what, Kevin? I think that this is a time where you tell your the story about you pooping your pants.
Oh, all right. Oh, is that what happened? Oh, okay. Do you want me to tell you about the time I shit my pants at the Palace of Versailles? Because it happened. I'm one thing I want to know about that. If you go to the Palace of Versailles in France, you've got to realize that at the time that they built the Palace of Versailles, they didn't put a whole lot of toilets in there, and it's still not changed. And if you go to the Palace of Versailles with a dicky tummy, you're gonna find yourself caught out in the wrong place. And that did happen to me. I shit my pants at the court of the royal family of France. And as much as I hate the story about the fact of the trying to get into the whole thing about it, most people do not have that sort of I shit my pants story that even goes as remotely awesome as that. Like I only think that if I were at the White House during a White House dinner exchange and then got up onto the table, walked around, and then shit my pants while walking on the the whole family thing, that I think that it could have been more embarrassing. I was literally I shit my pants in front of hundreds of witnesses at the Palace of Versailles. It was interesting. And I'm I'm really glad about the fact that camera phones had not been invented at that point in time. Although it might still be on some sort of early video tape technology of look at this guy from Northern Ireland falling over in the corner, clutching his stomach in horror and dread as he gives birth to what would seem to be a 3-pound turd in the corner. There you go.
that's great.
Yes. But that's never happened to Richard, though.
No, I've never shit myself in the Palace of Versailles.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Like I said, I mean, it's this is one of those things I have had, I've had stomach issues my entire life, and that's the way that goes. And I'm not afraid to say it because I think once you can be free about your shit stories, then I look at it like this, like with the way that a lot of people think is you share your stories, somebody else is being helped, and I'm helping some people. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know
that's
how many people I will get contacting me separately saying your story really opened up
Your
something.
bowels, their
Yeah,
bowels,
well,
or
no,
something. Yeah.
they'll say, I have always been embarrassed about the time that I shit my pants behind the Burger King parking lot. And it was
Is this a really like another true story of yours?
yeah. And your bravery has helped me go on.
Okay. Well, in solidarity, I'll tell you an embarrassing thing that happened to me once, if you want.
Sure.
When I
Let
was 16 or 17, we went to Africa for a holiday. And in Africa, they've got this greeting. They say jambo. It's Swahili for hello. Everyone says it. And I walked up to one of the hotel attendants, black dude, obviously, it was in Africa, and said jambo really loudly at him. He turned around, he gave me a look that, that would fry eggs from a distance. Turned out he wasn't an attendant, he was one of the guests.
Of course. Of course. Jumbo. Yeah. Well, I would imagine that
You can go ahead and tell mine, Richard.
I'm not telling yours, you have to tell it.
No, I told you why I couldn't tell it.
were you at work and
Oh, right. Right. Okay. I hadn't checked Discord.
did you
Okay.
did you did you shit your pants at work and say Jambo?
Jello. Yeah, that's what happened.
Well, I can tell you that the next time I shit my pants,
You're
there
just
will be there is going to be a picture of me, 2 thumbs up with the thing that says Jambo in it.
Jello.
And if you know and you see that on Facebook, 2 thumbs up and Jambo in the thing, you'll know what happened.
You yell it out like you do Jenga.
Yeah.
You just shit your pants and yell out Jambo
Yeah,
with both
it's-
arms wide in the air.
It's sort of like, oh,
Okay.
Jumbo.
So Nikki's unable to say out loud what happened for reasons that will become obvious after I finish telling the story. Um, she went for a shower and she was feeling a little bit frisky, so she took some toys in with her,
Plural.
plural,
Multiple.
many toys, multiple toys that women of will take in to enjoy themselves with. And she left them in the shower, and the person in it after her was her father, dad.
Did he come out with 2 thumbs up saying Jumbo?
Nothing was said.
That's almost the worst. You would almost wanted the Jambo on that one because then at least that at that point in time, he's got a sense of humor.
Maybe there's no surprise anymore. Because something far worse happened several years ago. Go ahead and tell that one too.
Nikki gave her dad one of her old phones that used to belong to her husband, and it had a fair amount of, shall we say, selfies of a certain nature on them.
I have always tried to think of the ways that a lot of people could recycle things in the past. And I have just going along with your idea there. I have often thought of the fact that women's toys, after they're used and you get rid of them, we should give them to dogs. Like as dog toys. And the name of my company is Give a Dog a Bone.
That's great.
Yes, that's it. If
I cannot.
so, after they were in the shower with your father, I'm sure that you would love to donate those to Give the Dog a Bone Foundation.
I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, all right.
Life. Anyway, we want to talk about Pete. Wow, Pete Coones today.
Pete somebody.
Pete Coones.
Pete Coones.
Richard.
He's on mute. Right now he's trying to, get into the system and register, give the dog a bone, find out.
Well, you know what? You want to know what happened? I really needed the bathroom, and I thought you were just going to talk, so I risked it. All right, that's what happened there.
Hey, Richard, 2 thumbs up. Jumbo!
This is what I get for being vulnerable. Okay. So you feeling better, Niki?
I am, yeah.
Good. Good. I'm glad we could
You
cheer
don't
you up.
You don't know how many people you've helped with that story.
Thank you, Care Bear Skid Rug, for starting that share fest.
Yes. All right. Who is Richard Coombs?
Pete Coones.
Pete Coombs. Dick Coombs.
Speaking of really terrible, you know, you're a master at the terrible segue. When I finally get around to making the new intro, it's just going to be your terrible segues.
All right, so tell us about Dean Koontz.
Do you really want to know, or are you just going to make fun of the name the whole time?
No, I'm done. I'm done.
All right. So, he was arrested and charged with the murder of Kathleen Schroll and her husband Carl Schroll in Kansas City, Kansas, in April 2008. There was no. The police originally called it a murder-suicide, after which they discovered that Kathleen had been shot in the back of her head. And since it's very hard to commit suicide that way, they decided it was a murder. It was then discovered that Kathleen had called her mother before she died and said that Pete was in the house, had stolen her lawnmower, and was going to kill her. The police investigated and they discovered that there was a bitter lawsuit going on between Pete and Kathleen because Kathleen had inherited Pete's father's house after his father had passed. And so they were challenging the will and going through all of that in the court system. So they had a pretty solid motive. And, you know, they had me opportunity because she said that he was there. Now, he did have an alibi. His family said that he hadn't left the house at all, that he'd been with them all night long, and the forensic technologies who checked his house discovered that somebody had been using his computer at the time of the murder. But of course, there's no way of knowing that that was definitely him. So he went to trial and he was convicted for the murder of Kathleen Schroll, but not Carl Schroll. I don't really know what happened there. There's not a lot of information there. Apparently, they felt there was enough evidence to convict him of murdering her, but not him, which I never understood. If I'm completely honest, that was the first twist for me. I was like, how does that happen? You know, that's your cue to talk.
Well, I don't know.
This is, well, the thing is you can have evidence that's hard hitting saying that you killed one person. There could be a second victim, but everything that's there is just circumstantial. Like, you don't have what they would feel is good evidence. So they could try to prosecute you on the murder that they have evidence for and drop the other one, just hoping that you get max sentence. But they can't really try the second one if they don't have real evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe, yeah. I think that's maybe one of those things where if he had, obviously, murder has certain elements to it, right? Versus homicide, and so therefore maybe he didn't meet all the, like Niki was saying, he just happened to be there at the wrong time or what. I mean, who knows? I guess that was that's it. I don't know. Since I
They
don't
felt
know.
they could convict him on one thing and not the other. I bet you is what happened, because that happens quite often.
Yeah,
and
and
arson
maybe adding the other factors of the case would complicate matters. I don't know. I don't know how any of these
because
things.
we've discussed it before. They don't necessarily care about solving the case as much as they do closing it. So they just want to pin it on who they can pin it on as fast as possible so they can put a little stamp on it and it goes in their record. They did a good thing.
Yeah.
So if you brought in the second person that died, it could have just completely ruined their case. So they didn't even want to broach the subject.
Well, maybe somebody had motive to kill the husband. I mean, that's one of those things you could be like, what if somebody had motive to kill the other person, and then the other person said, well, if that's the case, and somebody had motive to kill him, then maybe he incidentally killed the husband, and it wasn't Coombs that did it.
Hmm.
I mean, there's always all kinds of different parts that play into these things that are weird like that.
But anyway, he was convicted in 2008 of killing Kathleen Schroll and sentenced to 50 years. Now, he was 58 himself at the time, so it was pretty much a life sentence. Fast forward time, a year later, as appeal goes through and is successful, the prosecution failed to divulge the contents of his computer forensics analysis to the defense. So that was what you call it, misrepresentation of evidence, or I don't know what the legal term for it was. So he was granted a new trial. This time, the prosecution pulled out a jailhouse informant, somebody who said that Pete had confessed the entire crime to him and how he was able to be in the house to get his alibi and commit the crime. He'd gone out of the bedroom window and he'd recorded himself snoring to play it so his wife could hear. So, that was enough to secure a conviction the second time, and he was again convicted and sentenced to 50 years because of this jailhouse informant. You with me so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Completely.
So, fast forward time again to 2020. So, Pete's been in prison now for 12 years. And a new district attorney puts together a evidentiary committee to look at wrongful convictions. And Peter writes him a letter. He says, look, I'm innocent. I have an alibi. I didn't do this. Will you please look into it? So they look into his case again. They look through all the little stuff about how he was in a bitter dispute with Kathleen Schroll, and they dig a little deeper, and it's like lifting up a rock and finding all this weird stuff living underneath it, because Kathleen was actually ripping off Pete's father. She had stolen 30 grand from him. She had made him put the house's deed in her name. She was also stealing from her other job as a credit union representation. She'd embezzled something like 40 to 50 grand. And this was all going to come out in civil court. They also found out that the prosecution's star witness had been lying. He'd been trying to get himself a shorter sentence. There was also accusations of prosecutorial misconduct. They'd bullied him into making the statement. There's a whole rabbit hole around that witness to go down as well. So they look into it deeper and they find out that they tested Kathleen's head. There was gunpowder residue, obviously, but there was no gunpowder residue at all on Pete's hands. There was on Kathleen's hands. So it turns out she murdered her husband and then killed herself and framed Pete for this crime.
That's commitment.
And this is it. This is the bit that gets me. This is the bit that I respect. The reason she did it was because all this stuff about what she'd been doing was going to come out in court. So this was a last-ditch effort to destroy Pete's legal case, put him in jail so her daughter would inherit all of his father's stuff.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy. And how long did he spend in jail?
13 years. Oh, I haven't even got to the worst part about that. He'd
Okay.
actually had lung cancer for 2 years in prison. It went undiagnosed. So when he was finally released, he only lived for 108 days.
Crazy. Crazy. But like I said, it's um people will obviously whenever they're doing I mean, these are the things that are kind of weird about uh cases of family members being cut out of wills, and therefore um these things happen is, obvious oftentimes these people who, I mean, just be careful about the type of people who are looking after your elderly parents. I mean, because a lot of times, they, they do become more of a family member to the family than the family member. And so therefore they think, okay, well, you've cared after me since I was, sick or whatever, uh, and obviously, then the issue becomes, well, I'm blood, therefore I should get the money. And then the parent is like, well, if you're blood, you should look after me, but you didn't. So then this other person looked after me, and I'm going to give it to them. And it basically comes down to, unfortunately, if you look at it from, in my perspective, the parents, the dead uh, 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 parents, person who died and passed on the stuff to the other one, as one of these people neglected me less than the other people did. And that's sad to me, you know?
I mean, I wouldn't have minded if that had been the case, if Kathleen had been the one that looked after him and been rewarded, and then, you know, that would have made sense to me. But to bully an old man with Alzheimer's into giving her everything and then murdering her husband and herself just as a final fuck you to this dude who had
Yeah.
never really done anything to her in his entire life. I mean, that's real commitment right there.
No, no, no. I'm not saying that that's a right thing to do. Obviously, I don't think it needs to be a panel discussion show to say how messed up that is. But I'm just saying is clearly these types of scenarios become an issue because of the fact that, um, in a lot of ways, nobody wants to take care of elderly family members. And, that's all I'm saying. It's a side. It's not germane to this specific story, but it's just a sad commentary on the fact that, you know, um, uh, I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm just gonna shut up.
Just hooked me, man. It was like one of these things you see in a movie. Like, truth is stranger than fiction. And the fact that it worked, the fact that the only evidence they really had was a phone call, and the fact that they originally called it a murder suicide, but then once they found out about the phone call, decided that it was this Pete dude that murdered her and her husband, even though they had no real evidence. And he spent 12 years. I mean, we talked about David Cam that one time. You spent like almost 20 years in and out of prison fighting a conviction, and they had more evidence there than they did in this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is the thing that there is a, you know, unfortunately, there's a level of, justice that we, want to get to and rarely do. I think that's the sad part.
Hmm.
It's all about money.
Money. Be quiet, Nikki. What do you think about this?
I just said it's all about money. No, I agree with you. Like, it takes quite a bit of commitment. You kind of have to applaud her, even though she was a total bitch. Um, just to go through that, I feel so bad for him. And didn't he? He just died, didn't he?
Not that long ago, yeah.
Yeah, he was like out of jail for 108 days, not even a year before he passed away.
Yeah, a couple of months.
It's just
And
ridiculous.
That's it. And he was so mellow about it as well. I mean, he got $1 million in compensation.
What
But
are you
if you
gonna
go
do?
back,
Go ahead.
sorry,
Sorry. No, just $1 million. Wow.
but if you go back and watched his interviews after he was released, he was so mellow about it as well. He was like, "Oh, this whole thing's gonna be in the rear view mirror in a few months. Everything will be fine." And I was just like, "Yeah, dude, you're copacetic, really." I'd be
Well,
pissed.
I think he'd come to conclusions that he'd come to the inevitability of his own death. And it's an interesting thing whenever you come to meet people who are comfortable with their own demise at a certain point because they've got cancer or something else.
Yep.
Uh, they're obviously sometimes they're just the chillest freaking people on the face of the planet. It's just like,
Well, they
well,
realize why stress out.
yeah. What's the point at this point? You know? And so maybe that's part of it. It wasn't necessarily that he felt like it was right or anything else, but obviously other factors that had come along with it and decided, yeah, it's like there's nothing I can do. Either at this point in time, I'm going to die. The only question that really matters at this point is do I cease to exist whenever I die, or do I go somewhere else whenever I die?
Right.
Hmm. Don't know. It's just hooked me. Don't know why. I only found out about it today, but I went down a rabbit hole with it.
It's
Well,
just
I think it's
it's super
case,
sad.
yeah, it is sad, but I mean, this is the way that some of these things are set up. I mean, you hear the same kind of cases where people are like, okay, well, I've got a double indemnity policy on my life insurance if I die a certain way, and I know I'm dying, so I'm going to go ahead and die in a way that my family would get twice as much money, you know?
I get that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's just again, but that's Nikki's point, is that it's all about the money. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, something's going down, and if I can uh, get a little bit, I mean, I think it's what's kind of an interesting thing. None of us really care if somebody beats the man, but some of us care if somebody beats another guy who isn't the man. And so I kind of wonder if this was a case of, somebody got it over on an insurance company, whether anybody would care, you know, interestingly enough.
Hmm. Well, well, she did have a life insurance policy on the old man, and she did benefit from that. Interestingly enough, the bank did close his account for suspicious activity after it was empty. So
Yeah.
there were rumblings. I mean, that's ultimately why she did it, because the walls were closing in. It was all going to come out in civil court, and she figured this was the best way she could win.
Yeah. And I think that part of the thing about that is to some people, again, this is an interesting case, is to some people being in prison is the worst thing imaginable. Like they won't go to prison. I will not go to prison. Therefore, I would rather die than go to prison. At the same time, putting another man in prison. I mean, we don't know the motivation of it, but putting somebody in prison for 12 years, if you were deathly afraid of going to prison, and that was part of the motivation of it for you, means that you are an official see you next Tuesday.
Hmm.
You know.
Well, I have been in prison, and I would rather die than go back there.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, not prison, but I've been in jail, and
Hmm.
you know, it's
Y'all just a
it's
bunch of sinners. Jeez.
well, that's the thing, right? The thing that you would say is, Nikki, because we are sort of naive folks that actually believe in the whole idea of innocent until proven guilty, and we were not proven guilty, let alone had a trial yet to to do that. being put in a situation with people who are like that seemed a little unfair. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Hmm. Any final thoughts on this?
No, it just sucks for him. Like that,
Hmm.
it's sad.
It is sad.
So, Nikki, who gets the $1 million in compensatory damages? Did he have anybody in his family that gets the million?
I don't know, Richard. Did he have anybody?
Yeah, he had a big family. He had 5 children.
All right.
Oh.
So basically, the dad went to prison. He's out of prison. Somebody got the $1 million. Somebody right now is driving around in a big boat that they didn't earn because
Well,
their
I'm
dad
pretty
was out.
sure a lot of that went on medical bills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I'm sorry. My jaded nature just came out there.
It's fine. What would you like to talk about next week, Kevin?
I don't know. Mothman seems like a good idea, or some kind of a thing about Mothman.
You really want to do the Mothman thing?
No, I don't give a shit. I don't know. I don't care. I don't. I
No,
mean,
It's
let's
your
do the
turn.
Mothman. Let's do it.
All right, let's do Mothman seriously next week and no takesies backsies.
yeah, and that just means that Nikki,
Yes, sir.
you just have to find some sort of an item, some sort of a closed-in plastic item that you could put your small toys in, and then just like so that we don't have to talk about it. I think that's a brilliant story, to be honest with you.
It happens, you know.
I think it's great. I think it's great. It takes off the thin veneer of the fact that we are all just people trying to get through the world.
Just
You
think
know,
about how much worse it would have been if you were a boy. For your dad, I mean.
Why would that have been worse?
Well, finding a purple penis.
Oh, what? So?
What
Oh,
I mean-
well, yeah, I guess.
Well, they're ultra religious, so
well, I
Yeah,
suppose
guess.
I suppose that's I think it okay, let me ask you a question though, Nikki. That's just because
Mhm,
I grew up in a family that was fairly religious, okay?
mhm.
And almost the fact that they are religious makes it better than the fact that they're not. Because to me, it's like, okay, they caught you in a scenario,
Mhm.
and their propriety about it would stop them from therefore wanting to discuss it with you.
Oh,
Any part,
absolutely not. No, 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 no.
no, they want to talk about it.
I will be getting shit sooner or later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I would almost think that the happy-go-lucky dad trying to come to me and sort of relate to me about it would be worse than the never talking about it ever again.
Yeah.
Shame part of it.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be a lot of, laughter at my expense.
they're gonna
I'm just
slate the
waiting.
shit out of her. I mean, you don't even know how it works in her family. She is gonna get ripped to fuck.
Well, though, I'm so saying one other thing about being in a Presbyterian family is okay, it happened. Then
Yeah.
that's it. Stuff it down. We are never going to talk about that
Yeah,
again.
no, that's not.
And
That's
then
not.
therefore
Yeah.
move on. You never have to worry about anybody in the family ever talking about that ever again.
Mm-mm.
Me and her mother's favorite thing to do is sit there and make fun of her for hours and hours and hours.
Together.
And that's her mother. So
Yeah.
she's gonna
Um,
suffer. It's
like
gonna be horrible.
if I take the piss out of you, it's because I care, and that's how my family shows love. It's
Yes.
by being a total asshole.
Well, yeah, that's a sort of a very interesting sort of that's a very Northern Irish way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Like if we weren't picking on you, that meant we wouldn't care.
Exactly. Right. We're
Mm.
not going to pay any attention to you if we don't like you.
Right. The
If we
fact that
do like you, you're open game.
right. The
If you
fact
can't
that
take it, you weren't meant for us.
yes, that
You're weak.
you have to have a certain level of toughness to survive. It's survival of the fittest in the way that if you can't deal with this family to a certain degree of taking crap from people, we don't want you. You are not of our genetic code. Get
Absolutely.
get out.
And on that bombshell, I think we'll wrap it up for this week. We will return next week, despite the hopes of many. It's good night from me, and it's good night from Kevin and Nikki. I
Nice.
really need to get my sound thing working again. It doesn't feel safe without mumbles.
It's coming up to Halloween, should we have a Halloween special, by the way?
Should we have us? Of course. It's
Yeah,
in,
but I mean, should we start planning for it now?
it's in 2 weeks. We've got the Mothman one, and then the week after that, we'll do urban myths around Halloween.
Oh, I like
Okay. All right, there we go.
Alrighty then.
I think that a little bit of a foreplanning would be good. That's all.
Okay.
Although I'm really liking the not having a plan.
Right. So you just said that you wanted a plan, and now you're saying you like not having a plan.
Well,
I mean,
that just goes to show you that I'm very easy to please. I like having a plan, and I like not having a plan. And
that's not easy to please. That's called passive aggression.
Okay then. And good night from him.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing a Halloween urban myth episode. Yeah, right. We'll do that one after the Mothman, which our fans sorely deserve. Night, everyone. Disco sucks.